Margarita Gertruida Zeller, the woman who would become legendary as Mata Hari, was born on August 7, 1876, in Leeuwarden, Netherlands. She was the eldest of 4 children in a seemingly comfortable middle-class family. Her father, Adam Zeller, doted on her, but financial misfortune struck when Margaretha was young. Her father's hat business failed, leading to a bitter divorce from her mother, Antje van der Molen, in 1891. This event, coupled with her mother's death shortly thereafter, cast a long shadow on Margaretha's adolescence. Following her mother's passing, Margaretha was sent to live with a godfather. The adjustment was difficult, and her dreams of becoming a kindergarten teacher were cut short under scandalous circumstances. Rumours swirled that the much older headmaster had made inappropriate advances toward the 16-year-old Margaretha. To avoid further scandal, her godfather promptly removed her from the institution. Seeking adventure, 18-year-old Margaretha responded to a newspaper advertisement placed by Dutch colonial army captain Rudolf MacLeod. Despite a 20-year age difference, they were engaged just 6 days after meeting and married in 1895. The couple relocated to the Dutch East Indies, now Indonesia, where MacLeod was stationed. Initially, Margaretha was enthralled by the exotic locale and embraced the local culture, even learning traditional dances. However, their marriage quickly soured. MacLeod was a harsh and abusive husband, openly keeping a concubine. Tragically, both Margaretha and MacLeod contracted syphilis, a disease rampant among colonial soldiers at the time. The consequences were devastating for their children. Their son Norman John, born in 1896, and daughter Louise Jean, born in 1898, fell violently ill in 1899. While the exact cause remains debated, it is widely believed the children suffered from complications related to congenital syphilis, contracted from their parents. In a misguided attempt to treat the syphilis, a base doctor administered mercury to the young children, resulting in severe mercury poisoning. Norman John, who was around 2.5 years old at the time, succumbed to the overdose and died in his mother's arms. Louise Jean narrowly survived, but was left severely weakened. Some accounts suggested the children may have been deliberately poisoned by an angry household servant seeking revenge against MacLeod, though the mercury overdose remains the more accepted cause. The death of Norman John was a crushing blow to Margaretha and a significant factor in the eventual breakdown of her marriage. By 1902, she could no longer endure the abuse and grief, and she separated from MacLeod. When they returned to the Netherlands, their divorce was finalised, and Margaretha received custody of their daughter. However, she struggled to support both her daughter and herself financially, and reluctantly had no other choice but to send Louise Jean to live with her father. In 1903, Margaretha arrived in Paris during the Belle Époque period, when the French economy was booming and the arts were flourishing. The city proved ripe for her talents. Desperate to earn enough money to regain custody of her daughter, she initially tried her hand at various professions in Paris, including artists modelling, teaching piano and foreign languages, and even working as a stuntwoman in the circus. It was when a friend suggested she try dancing that she was set on the path to stardom. Margaretha crafted a new persona, Mata Hari. This name, meaning sun or eye of the day in Malay, was inspired by her time in the East Indies. She cultivated an exotic image, claiming to be a Javanese princess, which captivated audiences across Europe. Her performances, characterized by sensuality and the strategic removal of veils, created an illusion of nudity that sent shockwaves through Parisian society. This unique style, coupled with her captivating stage presence, propelled her to overnight fame. She became a celebrated dancer, performing at prestigious theatres and salons across Europe. Her newfound success allowed her to move in elite social circles, where she mingled with influential figures, including military officers and diplomats. This access to high society would later play a role in her entanglement with the world of espionage. By 1910, as new dance trends emerged, Mata Hari's popularity began to wane. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 further complicated her life. Mata Hari had been in Germany on a 6-month dance commission when war was declared. She tried to return to France, but all her assets, including jewels and fur coats, were seized. She was eventually able to leave Germany and return to her home in the neutral Netherlands. In 1915, facing financial difficulties, Mata Hari met Karl Kromar, an honorary consul for Germany and Amsterdam. Kromar was trying to recruit multilingual people from neutral countries to spy on top officials of other countries for Germany. He offered Mata Hari 20,000 francs, which she accepted. However, she always maintained she never intended to spy for Germany. She actually viewed the money as compensation for the items Germany seized at the war's onset. With funds from the Germans, Mata Hari decided to travel back to France. En route, her boat docked in England, and she was questioned by British authorities. Her access to high-ranking individuals and multilingual skills made her a prime suspect as a spy and a potential threat to British national security. Finding no reason to keep her, she was allowed to sail on to France but refused permission to return to the UK. The British then sent a message to the French counter-espionage unit run by Captain Georges Ledoux, alerting them to Mata Hari's activities. In 1916, while staying at the Grand Hotel in Paris and under surveillance by French officers who were following her every move and monitoring her mail, Mata Hari met Vladimir de Maslov, a young Russian pilot. They fell madly in love, with Mata Hari declaring him the love of her life. When Maslov was wounded in action and hospitalized in Vittel near the front lines, Mata Hari was desperate to be by his side, but needed special documents to travel there. She contacted an ex-lover who recommended she seek help from Captain Ledoux to obtain the necessary papers. Unbeknownst to Mata Hari, Ledoux had other plans. He offered to sign the paperwork and pay her 1 million francs, approximately $3.5 million in today's money, to spy for the French by seducing top German officials. Driven by her desire to secure a future with Maslov and alleviate her financial woes, Mata Hari agreed, and Ledoux signed her paperwork. After spending time with Maslov in Vittel, Mata Hari's discussions with Ledoux continued. Ledoux tasked her with travelling to Belgium to seduce the Crown Prince of Germany, promising payment upon her return. On November 5, 1916, she set off on a Spanish ship headed for Belgium. When her ship stopped off in Falmouth, England, she was arrested and taken to London. The British had mistaken her for a known German spy named Clara Benedicts. The British intelligence service tricked Mata Hari, claiming they had received a telegram confirming her as a German agent. Desperate to prove she wasn't a German spy, she confessed to them she was actually spying for the French. The British contacted Ledoux, who stated her recruitment was just a plan to expose her as a German spy, and left her fate up to the British. Without definitive evidence, Mata Hari was released and sent back to Spain. Once in Spain, she frantically wrote to Ledoux for new instructions, as she could no longer travel to where the German prince was staying, but still wanted to earn her money. Ledoux, however, did not reply. In an effort to prove her worth, Mata Hari seduced Major Arnold Kalle, a high-ranking German officer staying at the Ritz Hotel in Madrid. From Kalle, Mata Hari learned of a plan to land German submarines in Morocco, then a French colony, to try and stir up tensions in the area. Unfortunately, she wrote this information in an uncoded letter to Ledoux, which was likely intercepted by various spies. Major Kalle was informed of her betrayal and set a trap. He sent telegrams to Berlin discussing his meetings with Agent H21, Mata Hari's codename from German intelligence, using a code the French had previously cracked, implicating her as a double agent. In January 1917, needing money and receiving no contact from Ledoux, Mata Hari returned to Paris. Vladimir Maslov came to see her, but after his request to marry her was refused by his superiors, he ended their relationship, leaving Mata Hari heartbroken. On February 19, 1917, an arrest warrant was issued for Mata Hari on suspicion of espionage and treason. She was arrested at the Élysée Palace Hotel and taken to the notorious Saint-Lazare prison in Paris. Mata Hari was interrogated for 3 months by Pierre Bouchardon. She finally admitted to taking money from the Germans, but maintained she had not spied for them or acted against France, viewing the funds as compensation. Unbeknownst to Mata Hari, she was caught in a political game. The French were eager to improve public morale after devastating defeats, and the capture of a foreign spy was just what they needed. Her reputation as an exotic dancer and woman of loose morals was greatly exaggerated before the trial. Her trial started on July 24, 1917, and lasted 2 days. Despite a lack of concrete evidence, the 7 trial judges found her guilty of all charges and sentenced her to death by firing squad. The prosecution called her the greatest female spy of our century and claimed she was responsible for the deaths of as many as 50,000 French soldiers. On October 15, 1917, Mata Hari was transported to Vincennes Castle on the outskirts of Paris, escorted by her lawyer and a nun from the prison. Brave to the end, she refused to be blindfolded and reportedly blew a last defiant kiss to an officer in the firing squad before she was shot to death. Afterward, a non-commissioned officer fired a shot through her temple to confirm her demise. The French state auctioned off her belongings after her death to recuperate the cost of her trial. Nobody came forward to claim her body, so it was given to the Paris Medical School for dissection. At the medical school, her head was embalmed but sadly went missing in the 1950s. In the century since her execution, Mata Hari's legend as the original femme fatale has only grown. Many Hollywood films and books have been written about her life, cementing her status as an enigmatic and captivating figure. In 2017, 100 years after her death, the French declassified the transcript of her trial, providing new insights into her controversial case. Despite the questions surrounding her guilt, Mata Hari's life remains a captivating blend of personal struggles, reinvention, and wartime espionage. She was a woman who defied societal norms, a dancer who captivated audiences, and a figure forever shrouded in mystery. The legend of Mata Hari, the seductive spy who danced her way into infamy, continues to capture our imagination over a century later.